So good afternoon, friends. Welcome back to the online learning platform at Department of Civil Engineering. I'm Rajesh Gopinath, and you're along with me for the course Municipal Wastewater Engineering, which is very much required for your environmental engineering lab. Okay. Now, in the previous sessions, I'm sure you were exposed to knowledge based on sampling. Okay. Now, in today's session, we shall actually have a review, or rather a preview of a layout of a typical municipal wastewater treatment plant. Okay. Now, in today's presentation, I will take you through the various unit operations, the various unit processes that are undertaken in a typical municipal wastewater treatment plant. As you can see on your screen, you can see a plan view, a diagram. Okay. Now, basically how this would look like in reality. Okay. Now, typically a municipal wastewater treatment plant would have layers of treatment, and they're classified as preliminary treatment, primary treatment, secondary treatment, tertiary treatment, sludge treatment, and of course, towards the end, I'll be summarizing this and providing you references. Just to kickstart on a good note, and to make sure that you have an effective understanding, I'll play you a video. Keep looking at this. I'll be explaining once again. So basically what you saw in this video is the wastewater is entering first into a screen, then it goes into a grease chamber, then it goes to an equalization tank. Okay, then it is going to an activated sludge process. Okay, there is chlorination taking place. Then it is going to a sand filter, then it goes to a sludge drying bed, and so forth. What I want to express here is, when I say a typical wastewater treatment plant, there would be treatments beyond this. Okay, it is all situational. It is specific to the characteristics of the wastewater that we intend to treat. So everywhere you may not find the same layout. For your kind perusal and for your benevolence, what I've done is I've added all the probable treatment units and processes which can facilitate and enhance your understanding. Okay, so now let's kickstart. First one, preliminary treatment. Typically when you speak about preliminary treatment, first it would be an equalization basin. Okay, then you would have screens, then you would have a comminutor, then you would have a grit chamber, then you would have a skimming tank. Okay, sometimes after a grit chamber, you may also have a detritus tank. So what exactly is a preliminary treatment? It's a treatment which is being provided to the wastewater to prepare it for the primary treatment. Let's try to understand each of this one by one. First one, equalization basin. So as you can see, okay, equalization basin would typically be a RCC structure. Now look at the word equalization. So basically the objective of providing an equalization basin is to make sure that whatever wastewater is entering any of the unit operations or processes is entering in a uniform manner with respect to the flow rate and velocity. The idea is, see, whether you say screens or sedimentation tank or your sand filter or any operation for that matter, they're all design specific. Okay. Now, when it is design specific, if in case there is a violation, let us say, there is a heavy rainfall and the quantity of wastewater which enters your treatment plant is enormous than expected, it will spoil the entire show. Let's say it's a dry weather flow. Okay. Now, irrespective of what the situation is, we are not supposed to allow the wastewater to enter into any operation or processes in non-compliance with its design. So what we would rather do is we will have a temporary holding tank, temporary holding basin, which can sometimes also double up as a sedimentation tank. In simple words, equalization basin is that structure wherein all the wastewater which is coming from multiple outfalls from the different sources from the municipalities, all of them is collected in your equalization basin, and once a desired capacity has been attained, then with the uniform pumping rate, then this wastewater is pumped or transported to the subsequent operations. Therefore, what you're attaining is you're protecting the wastewater treatment plant from shock loads. You are preventing short circuiting. Okay, so this is the significance of your equalization basin. Let's move further. The second unit operation would be screens. Now, what happens is in your wastewater, it is possible that you might find large floating matter. It could be, paper, okay? It could be wood, it could be tree, it could be bark, it could be dead bodies, okay? And you just cannot allow these to enter into your system, because if they enter your system, they can tend to clog your pipelines, or they can tend to spoil your pumps. So it is important that all these large floating matters are removed. Okay. Now, typically the screens would be of different types based on two criteria. Is it manually cleaned or mechanically cleaned? Okay. And also based on whether they are fixed screens or movable screens. Okay. But the most important classification would nevertheless be based on the, the opening between those spaces, the opening between those parallel rods. Okay. That is a space which is available for the wastewater to pass or sneak through. Let me show you a simple video, then I think we'll have a better understanding. So basically what happens is the wastewater is entering in a rectangular channel, and this wastewater contains lot of floating matter, which is very huge. So what a screen does is it acts as an obstruction for it. Okay, it acts as an obstruction, allows only the wastewater to come out from here without all these floating matter, while all this floating matter gets collected here and gets lifted. Now this is a mechanically cleaned screen, that is why it is getting lifted. All right. Okay. Now just look at the way it is being lifted up. So probably you're looking at a conveyor, you're looking at a chain mechanism. Okay. Now you can see how all this floating matter is getting lifted. And what happens when it gets lifted? All these waste impurities, or all this floating matter which is getting lifted, it is literally transported to another system. Okay, a collection system. All these impurities that you're talking about, they're called as screenings. Okay, eventually all these screenings, that is your collected impurities, either they are buried or they are composted, okay, or they are burned. But again, that would depend on the inherent physical, chemical, biological characteristics of these screenings. Okay, let me just fast forward it for you. So you can see as time goes on, it gets clogged, so you need to constantly keep cleaning it. So my friends, this is how a typical operation of a screen is. All right, now I hope you have a good understanding of this. Let's continue the presentation. Okay, now let's move on from a screen to a grid chamber. Now that you have removed all the floating matter, that is large sized impurities, your wastewater invariably may still contain inert inorganic substances. Okay, those which are non-putrescible, those which are non-biodegradable, and if you, in case if you allow them to enter the wastewater treatment plant, okay, it can impair functions of your trickling filters or your ASP because they're non-biodegradable, or probably it can choke your pipelines. It can also cause abrasion and wear and tear in your pipelines and pumps. So grid chamber is that facility which is meant to remove the inert inorganic components. It is somewhat very similar to a sedimentation unit. The only difference between sedimentation and this is, here it's a differential sedimentation, okay, that is differential scouring velocity is attained. Okay, again, when it comes to a grid chamber, again, it can be of different types. It can be a horizontal flow, it can be a vortex, it can be an aerated grid chamber. Okay. Now the next thing is a cutting screen, or it's also called as a comminutor. Now what it does is it helps in cutting down large size impurities into smaller size impurities. Again, the purpose is to ensure there is no choking of pipes and sewage pumps. Now the next one, and one of the most probable important unit operation, is oil and grease trap. Now typically let's say kitchens, or your probably from your garages, from your service stations, let's say restaurant, so any meat packing, food packing industries, or from all these places, you might end up with fatty acid, waxes, soaps, okay, fats, oil and grease. Now it's aesthetically not acceptable. The second issue is, when oil and grease is present in your wastewater, it forms as a layer which prevents your dissolved oxygen from being enhanced. That is because it doesn't allow air to mix with the wastewater. Okay, and now also there is an issue because you're talking about oil and grease. It can tend to be toxic. Okay, if it's from an industry, probably if it's coming from your kitchen, it can enhance the load on your ASP and trickling filters. Yes, it's oil and grease, so probably there's also a threat of fire and probably a threat of suffocation for people who are working closely with it, because you've got fumes emanating. So how do you remove it? You can go for a skimming tank or an oil and grease trap. Now, skimming tank is preferred probably only in cold countries, because a country like India, skimming cannot happen because there is no coagulation happening. Okay, so we tend to go for an oil and grease trap. Okay, now we are done with the preliminary treatment. So in the preliminary treatment, what did we achieve? We were able to normalize the wastewater flow rate, okay, which is going to enter the treatment plant, equalization basin. We were able to remove all the large floating solids and matter screens. Okay, we were also able to remove all the oil and grease, that is oil and grease trap. We were able to remove all the inert, inorganic, non-putrescible components, which is grid chamber. Okay, we were able to cut down the large floating matter into smaller sizes, comminutor. Okay, and yes, probably we can also go for a detritus tank. That is, if the grid chamber is unable to remove some fine inert inorganic substances, then you can go for that. Okay, however, in your curriculum, in your syllabi, you only have oil and grease trap, screens and grid chamber, and all of these will be subsequently discussed in detail with the operation, construction, maintenance and significance. Let's now move on from preliminary treatment to primary treatment. Now, the moment you say primary treatment, we are basically referring to clarifiers, we are referring to sedimentation tanks. Okay, what you need to understand with respect to sedimentation tank here is, there is a basic difference between settling and sedimentation. Okay, in a sedimentation tank, just like your water supply scheme, okay, it's also same here. There is no basic difference. The only difference being that in your water supply scheme, it was type 1 settling, okay, for sedimentation, type 2 settling for coagulation. But in wastewater, it is type 3 settling, because unlike your water supply scheme, though you deal with discrete particles, that is, as per your Stokes law, those solids which settle by the virtue of its own weight and does not undergo any change in its shape, size. Okay, now the difference remains in the concentration. While your water, okay, would be a dilute concentration, in your wastewater it would be largely concentrated. So the suspensions will be more concentrated in the wastewater, and it generally follows the type 3 settling. Okay, now the process by which these particles are falling down freely, that is called settling. Okay, but the process by which they get accumulated at the bottom and get compressed by the self weight or the overlying weight, that is called sedimenting. Okay, now what we need to understand here is, in primary treatment we only speak about settling tank, and what would be understood in this is the types of sedimentation tanks, probably with respect to its position, mode of operation, and its shape. Okay, but what is the reason that you employ a sedimentation tank? The major objective of employing a sedimentation tank is to remove settleable solids. All right, let's move on further. Now let's move on to secondary treatment. Now, as we all know, in a water supply scheme wherein the sedimentation unit was able to remove the settleable solids, it was unable to remove the fine suspended solids, and we had to go for coagulation and flocculation. Now, when it comes to your secondary treatment, there are three options available to us. The first option is we can still go for sedimentation with coagulation. That's a chemical process. But generally, we do not go for this. The reason being, your wastewater contains microorganisms, those which are capable of breaking down the organic matter. So the moment you speak about chemicals, they would be killed. So generally what we do is we try to take advantage of the fact that you have microorganisms, aerobic microorganisms, anaerobic microorganisms. So when you speak about the aerobic system, we are talking about activated sludge process. That is the image on your right hand corner, wherein you employ an aeration tank and a secondary clarifier. Now when it comes to your anaerobic condition, we tend to go for a trickling filter. Okay, I'll explain this in the subsequent slides. So this highlighted portion, that is the component which reflects to your secondary treatment. Now, even if you ask me a question, so why is there a clarifier here? Again, the purpose is same. Exactly what a sedimentation tank would do, that's the same purpose a secondary clarifier would attain. Okay, here probably thanks to the trickling filter or your ASP, you would have been able to convert most of the suspensions into settleable solids, and you eventually need a system to collect it. Okay, that's why a clarifier comes in picture. Let's move on. Now, this is what I said, sedimentation tank with coagulation. So again, the logic remains same. You have a flash mix. Okay. Now, as I said, you tend to add a coagulant, then you immediately, you do a rapid mix, and then you tend to go for a gentle mix, and then you give it a quiescent settling. So this is your rapid mix, this is your gentle mix, and this is your settling zone, quiescent zone, where there is no additional energy provided. But in the case of wastewater treatment, we shall not go for this, since it would do away with all the beneficial microorganisms. Let's go for something which is practiced. Activated sludge process. Okay, in simple words, if I need to explain this to you, okay, this would contain two systems. One is an aeration tank, and the second would be a settling tank. Okay, so first the wastewater from your sedimentation tank, primary sedimentation tank, comes to your aeration unit. Okay, by different means of aerators, the wastewater gets aerated, and then what basically happens here is you're providing oxygen for the microorganisms, because obviously if you expect the microorganisms to be healthy, and if they're healthy, they would like to eat food, and once they eat food, they tend to multiply. Okay, they tend to reproduce. Now what is that energy you're giving here? You're giving them oxygen. Okay, so to keep them alive, to keep them active, you're giving them oxygen. And what happens is, of course, there is a treated wastewater which eventually goes to a settling tank, and all the settlement comes down. But here what we do is we tend to provide a small part of this sludge back into this system. This is called as return sludge. Okay, and that is why it's called as activated sludge process, because if you actually understand, when these microorganisms which are present in the sludge, they're actually stronger acclimatized to these conditions, so they are more prone to, you know, a better decomposition of the microorganisms, sorry, decomposition of the organic matter. But if you look at the wastewater which is directly coming from sedimentation tank, yes, they also contain microbes, but they take the time to get acclimatized. If you remember your sigmoidal curve, okay, here it would be in the lag phase, but here it would be in the locked phase. So you're taking advantage by returning the sludge. Yes, this concept will again be explained to you in detail, but what we need to understand is this is an aerobic process. Okay, now advantages of having aerobic processes, there is no question of bad odor, okay, but the efficiency is slightly lesser, and yes, may not be economical considering you are supplying external electrical energy. Let's go for the anaerobic process, which is your trickling filters. Now, this is an anaerobic system. Now, these systems basically have got very good efficiency in terms of biodegradation, okay, and this does not consume much of energy. But yes, being an anaerobic system, they depend on the anaerobes, those bacteria which do not require oxygen, okay, and unfortunately the demerits or limitations of this process would be bad odor, okay, anesthetic appearances, you know, attraction to flies, okay, such as Psychoda and so forth. But why do you call this trickling filter? Okay, now you can see in the screen, okay, in this image, that there is wastewater getting you know, it is being spilled onto this layer. This layer is basically a layer of filters, which may be ceramics or any rugged material. So as the wastewater is coming down, it is trickling down. So hence the word trickling filters. Please remember, this is an anaerobic process. There's something else I would like to, you know, stress importance on. When you saw activated sludge process and when you saw the trickling filters, both of them required microorganisms. One required aerobic, the other required anaerobic. What I want you to understand further is both of them have a different kind of growth process. If you look at your activated sludge process, in that the microorganisms remained suspended. Hence, it is called as suspended growth process. But if you look at your trickling filters, okay, here the microorganisms are actually attached to these filters. Hence, it is called as attached growth process. Okay. Now, those systems what I showed you, they were conventional, they were traditional. Okay, now we do have advances, we do have latest technologies when it comes to your secondary treatment, such as your rotating biological contactors, your moving bed biofilm reactors. You know, just to shed light, even in our college, okay, the system what we have is the moving bed bioreactors. Okay, now in simple words, we are, you know, combining advantages. For instance, here all the microorganisms are suspended, but they are actually suspended to an attached medium. There are, you know, there are a lot of structures such as this plastic. Okay, these plastics remain suspended in the wastewater. Microorganisms actually get attached to these plastics. So it's like a combination of your suspended and attached growth process to attain the advantages, to, you know, to rope in or combine the merit of both the systems. Okay, again, this will be dealt in detail in the subsequent classes. Now, this is one more type of system. This is called rotating biological contactor. Okay, here what happens is this system, okay, this disc actually rotates. It is rotating and it is rotated by the wastewater itself. Now, when the wastewater is, you know, going through it, you know, when it is rotating, the wastewater actually goes through the entire system and the microorganisms get attached to these surfaces. When the microorganisms get attached to these surfaces, it becomes an attached growth process. Okay, this is also one more type of secondary treatment and advanced treatment. Now that we have understood preliminary treatment, primary treatment, secondary treatment, let's now move on to the third one, the miscellaneous or the tertiary treatment. Please note, tertiary treatment basically depends on the characteristics of the wastewater. Now, if you recollect, even in your water supply scheme, though you had primary and secondary, we still had to do tertiary or miscellaneous. Say for in the case of, you know, fluoride, okay, just as an example. All right. Now, similarly, in the case of wastewater, you do have impurities, okay, such as nitrogen and phosphorus. For instance, if you look at the issue of eutrophication, if you find a lake eutrophicated around your neighboring territory, it's probably because domestic sewage is entering into your lake and causing eutrophication. So the lake ecosystem is destroyed. So it also matters that we are able to remove all these kind of impurities which actually do not get removed in your previous treatments. So you need to go for special treatment, advanced treatment, or tertiary treatment, wherein you tend to remove impurities such as nitrogen, phosphorus, phosphate, potassium, and so forth. Okay. Now, whatever you do in primary, secondary, and advanced, okay, there's one prime treatment which should not be missed, and that is disinfection. Whether you realize or not, just like water supply scheme, disinfection remains very critical and important in tertiary treatment. The wastewater after preliminary, primary, secondary treatment should not be allowed to be disposed or dumped into the land, okay, or into the water bodies without disinfection, because there is a strong chance that the microorganisms still exist and survive. And you know very well that if you do that, you are prone to waterborne diseases. So disinfection is very mandatory when it comes to your tertiary treatment. You may consider that as the final treatment in your wastewater treatment plant. Now, I was talking about your municipal wastewater treatment plant, which is at your municipality level. Okay, now, institutions, engineering colleges, hospitals, jail, police stations, they also provide domestic sewage. Okay, I'm not talking about the biomedical waste from a hospital, but for instance, even a factory or an industry, they also produce domestic sewage. Okay, now in those circumstances, you also need to give a polishing treatment. Okay, that is sand filter, okay, and activated carbon filter. Basically, these are polishing processes, and it is eventually done to remove the fine suspended solids, okay, to remove the color, odor, and taste. Hence, it is called as polishing treatment. But these are, of course, scaled down, and they are meant for institutional purposes. Now, let's move on to something special. Okay, whenever you speak about a municipality, you're talking about your city and towns. Okay, so you know very well that just like water supply scheme, to set up a wastewater treatment plant also requires vast amount of land. Okay, and a lot of economy is involved. Okay, now that may not be affordable when it comes to the case of a village. Okay, so in those cases, what we do is we go for low cost treatment. So there are different kinds of them. I'll just show you, I briefly, provide you a glimpse of few of these. Now, what you're looking at is an oxidation pond. Okay, oxidation pond, which is shallow. All right, and basically what happens is we try to take advantage of both aerobic and anaerobic process to break down the wastewater. Obviously, in this circumstance, you cannot have the depth of the pond to be too high. Then anaerobic conditions will predominate over aerobic conditions. Okay, at the same time, it cannot be too shallow that you don't take the advantage of anaerobic conditions. So these are typically of the depth of 1 to 1.2 meters. That's one disadvantage, because then what happens is you need to go for a greater, volume, you need to go for greater expanse of land. However, in these kind of technologies, we totally rely on the natural behavior, natural feeding pattern of the microorganisms in algae. Just to explain, if you need to break down the organic matter, you need microorganisms which needs oxygen. Okay, so how do you provide oxygen? You provide them algae. So what does algae do? Algae takes in carbon dioxide and releases oxygen. This oxygen is used by the microorganisms who break down the organic matter and provide carbon dioxide. So it's a cyclic process. It's kind of a symbiosis, okay, wherein in this natural system, the wastewater is treated. Please remember, this is applicable to villages and municipal waste only, not to industrial waste. Okay, you can go for higher versions of this, such as oxidation ditches, wherein in the previous one, okay, it was not as sophisticated as this. Here you can, based on the pattern, you can see how the circulation of wastewater takes place to facilitate better settling and aeration. Okay, now maybe we can go a step higher, wherein we can have mechanical aerators to enhance the efficiency of aeration. then we tend to call them as aerated lagoon. Okay. Now, all said and done, we need to understand one important thing. Okay, preliminary treatment, primary treatment, secondary treatment, tertiary treatment. Okay, all of them, what were they doing? They were trying to remove the solid content from the wastewater. If you recollect, wastewater is still 99.9% water and 0.1% solids. So what is happening to these solids that you're removing? They eventually end up as sludge. Okay, whether it's your primary clarifier, your secondary clarifier, your activated sludge process. Okay, from all these units, sludge is being produced, and you need to still treat this sludge. Okay, let's see how we go about with that. Okay, now there are various kind of treatments which is being provided for sludge treatment, such as sludge thickeners, digesters, drying beds. Of course, all these will be discussed in detail in the further subsequent classes, but the objective remains same. I need to separate the solid content and the water portion. Okay, either you remove the solid part of it or you remove the water part of it. Okay, now one simple technique is you go for sludge drying bed, wherein you pour the wastewater. Okay, by the mechanism of aeration, the water gets removed. Only the solids will be left behind. Okay, the other way is wherein you apply pressure on the sludge and the water component is squeezed out. Sludge thickeners. Okay, please understand, municipal wastewater treatment plant is very essential, because if that is not in place and if it is not working properly, then you will have issues of pollution of the land and the water bodies. Okay, it would be a problem when it comes to your public health, such as waterborne diseases. It's also not aesthetically feasible if you find wastewater in your territory, moving around your locality. Okay, now not only wastewater treatment plant is important to protect the public health or to protect the natural resources, but since it is getting treated, there is a strong possibility that it can be reused also, not just being disposed. Okay, it can be reused for any agro or industrial or domestic purposes, and probably, yes, depending on the intensity of the treatment, it can also be used for groundwater recharging. Okay, so friends, let's summarize. We understood the different layers of treatment: preliminary, primary, secondary, tertiary. Okay, we also understood briefly about sludge treatment. We understood the importance of all of these. Okay, and we remember that disinfection still remains the final treatment process. Okay, now let's have a look at a small video, because whatever you saw now was for a municipality. Okay, for a huge city or a town, or let's say a grand village. But as I told you, wastewater treatment should also happen for institutions. Okay, huge government establishments. How do we do that? Let's say for your own college, for instance. Okay, let me show you a small video to make you understand how we can have a municipal sewage treatment plant at a smaller scale. So it's all underground here. Whatever you're going to look at is completely underground. Okay, so in our college also now we have an underground STP. So you can see that all of these are housed underground. So this was the sand filter and activated carbon filter that I was referring about, the polishing treatment. So eventually the wastewater after this would be clean, okay, without any color, without any smell, aesthetically acceptable. And then you can use this for gardening, okay, or groundwater recharging. But yes, do not forget disinfection before we do that. So friends, I guess that was it with the presentation. So kindly go through these references. It will definitely, add value to the knowledge with respect to the subject and this course. All right. So in the subsequent class, you have preliminary treatment in detail. So let's say equalization tank. So friends, I thank you for your kind patience and your attention for this lesson. Thank you.